That's my way.
Today I am going to turn this ugly scrapyard engine that's been sitting under a deck for 5 years into something that I'm gonna use every time I race my car. I'm gonna start tearing it right apart because I know that it isn't very healthy. I know that there's some spots that have rust on it that don't need to have rust on it, like under here. Get to that in the future, but I've got to take this engine apart and freshen this puppy up. As you can see, these cams had seen some better days. They are covered in rust. So I've got to take it apart and put different ones in that I've got on the shelf. I've got plenty of sets of cams, but yeah, that's not acceptable. That's not gonna work. Oh, since I've seen some stuff that is really kind of an issue, I'm going to put the valve covers on just to cover things from dirt going in. And then I'm gonna clean out the insides where the actual spark plugs go because they are full of stuff from rats. So I'm gonna cover that up, spray all them out, take the plugs out, and then put compressed air in there and see if it's gonna hold some sort of compression. Okay, I've got some brake clean here. I'm just gonna spray some into every little spark plug hole I've got. Reason being, I want to loosen anything up. And then I'm gonna use an air gun. And then I'm going to squirt all the crap that's in there out. You won't be able to see it, but it's literally full of crap. Not good. I know it's hard to see, but they're a lot better. I'm just gonna pour some oil into the cylinder just so I don't have a raw, dry piston going up and down. I'm not sure if I told you guys yet, but I got this engine for free from a follower, which is awesome. That's good. But this engine has seen some crap. This engine needs a lot of work. I had a lot of trouble getting the spark plugs out on this head. So this is basically just gonna be a test to see if I can make an absolute crap engine last a season. I've oiled all the cylinders, so I don't have plugs in anything. So I'm gonna feed this guy into where my spark plugs go, feed it some high pressure air, and see if I can hear the valves leaking or the crankcase leaking, that type of thing. So when I put this air into it, it should turn the crank. We've got compression, it's not leaking at all. All right, I've got compressed air in there like I showed you before. I'm gonna show you a little trick. Do you see how there is like so much dust and grime in where the intake valve is? That's not good, obviously, right? Because when the engine wants to suck air in, it's gonna be sucking in all that dust, so I gotta get it out. I have a theory on how I'm gonna get it out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my lifters out that are right there, and then I'm gonna tap the valves with a hammer just so they open a little bit. And since there's compressed air in there, it's gonna shoot all this stuff right out into my shop. Got the HLAs out. So now I'm just going to take a small piece of steel and just tap the actual valve, and then that's gonna open each valve individually. I'm not gonna hurt anything, don't worry. Isn't that crazy, the pop that comes from it? Because the air's trying to escape so quickly and then it just gets shut. See all that dust coming out? Holy. I'm gonna do that to every single one, and in between I'm gonna cover what I can up and plug that one, then unplug this one, then you know what I mean? I'm gonna give you an example how dirty these are. Here's the one we just cleaned. Looks like a mouse was in this house. So there's just stuff everywhere. So I'm gonna get it out with the same theory. Hopefully it'll work. I don't know if that was a great idea or a dumb one, but it worked for me. I checked if the valves are holding pressure. They were really good, actually. Pretty happy with that. And I also cleaned everything out of the valve ports, so sick. Now I'm going to put some used spark plugs in that I used to run. I change my spark plugs pretty much regularly in this thing. I buy them by the box. So I have plenty of used ones. I'm gonna throw them in there for the first startup. And I've got the gap down to 0.29. All right, the valves are pretty clean. Clean enough for me, especially on this junkyard piece of crap engine. Anyways, now I'm gonna remove all these rusty bearings, and I'm also gonna take all this cooling stuff off and replace it or just reseal it and make sure that knock sensor is good down way in there. Freaking sweet. All right, I've got all the coolant lines out, the hard lines. I've got the exhaust off. I've got everything off this side, everything off this side. So from what I can see, this rear main is leaking real bad. So I'm gonna have to replace that. So my next step here is I'm gonna hose it down and with all the holes plugged, just to clean everything up, so then I can possibly paint it tomorrow. So while I was cleaning up, I went downstairs and I checked my parts bin. So I have parts everywhere. I already found cams, good cams that don't have any rust or anything. The DE ones, I'm throwing those in. I'm gonna bring them upstairs once I'm done with the water. I found all new coolant lines, new to me, like off of an engine that didn't have rust everywhere. This is the one I pulled off. It's covered in rust, all crusty. So I found this, I'm gonna use that. And I also was looking for a rear main while I was at it. And I found a brand new rear main in the package. I have lots of stuff that I've collected over the years from buying other MX-3s. And basically I take over people's projects that they don't finish. People that get kind of caught up in life and they're done with building cars. I buy those vehicles. Like the red car I bought, I got so much stuff that I can't even count. It's or whatever. So if you need anything, hit me up because I've got it. Anyways, found this rear main. So I'm gonna shove that rear main in there for sure. The front doesn't look too bad, but I couldn't, well, I'm gonna say it doesn't look too bad because I couldn't find one. But anyways, if I need to do the front, I can do that in the car. But this is the transmission side, so I definitely want to make sure that's not gonna leak on me. But yeah, so I'm looking good. I got cams, I got the coolant stuff, I've got a rear main. I'm Gucci. So now I'm going to hose this baby down. So and then tomorrow it's gonna be dry for me to continue on working on it and painting it. I've already got paint and all that good stuff, so we'll get at her. Got her hosed down. Looks a million times better. So the next thing would be to clean it more with brake clean and all that. I just got all the heavy stuff off and then I can paint it. All right, I'm gonna fish this crank seal off, pull that out, and then put the new one in. The new seal slid on easy enough. You just gotta make sure it goes on straight. If it goes on straight, it'll slide right in. I'm gonna remove this plug right here, and this is where I'm going to get my oil feed for my turbo. So I'm gonna remove it, let all the oil come out, because oil will come out every time because it's right to the pump. The pump's over there, but yeah, it's a straight shot here. And let the oil come out, then clean it, and then take this little piece off, and then I'm gonna paint it. All right, got her all cleaned up. Now I'm gonna paint it. I'm gonna take the valve covers off, put the cams in, and go from there. Got the new cams in. These are cams I found in the basement that are rust free without scoring. They're in good shape. Both sides are done. I spun both over, make sure everything was good and working. Now I'm gonna throw my valve covers on. Starting to look like something, that's for sure. I love that black on white. Doesn't get any better. Peep that Exile Auto Works cover. He made that for me. All right, I need to put on my pulleys for my timing. I need a pulley for my timing, the bottom on the crank. I need the pulley for the water pump here. I got lots to do. Okay, it's time to tie my engine. Belt-driven valve train. I'm very cheap, and I've never bought a belt in my life, a timing kit, or anything like that. Never. Because I reuse them. The only thing that I do differently is I make mechanical tensioners so I can adjust the tension, and I've never had a problem, and it's just a bolt and a nut. And I've never had one fail, other than I've gotten a nick in one from a rock going in the teeth, in between the teeth and the belt, but that'll happen any day of the week, technically. So yeah, I just thought I'd let you know that I do not replace belts, I just reuse them. Sweet, she's all timed up. There's the left, there's the right, and then there's the crank. Sweet. I'm going to modify a aluminum pulley onto this engine. I've got to grind out some pieces in here. Here's my new pulley, and as you can see, it's flat on the back, and these pieces get in the way, so I'm just gonna have to cut those out real quick. So now I'm gonna put the oil dipstick in. I'm also gonna put the power steering bracket on, and then see if I can find a water pump pulley. Since my pulley is a little bit smaller in diameter, my stock actual belt isn't gonna fit to go around this one, and this one. So I'm gonna have to look through my pile of belts that I've always saved just in case for a day like today. So I'm gonna try a little bit larger one. Okay, I got the engine way up in the air, about eye level. And the last thing I have to do is the oil pan. I left the stock oil pan that came on this engine on the bottom while I was dragging it around, because I was dragging it around. I didn't want to wreck my good one. I've already got one that has a bung in it right about here. So the turbo that is around here can drain into the oil pan with no issues of gravity or anything. So that's the next step, and I'm gonna leave it up on this hoist for 24 hours so it fully dries. I sometimes use this stuff, it's called Ultra Black, but most of the time I use the right stuff. I think I actually tried to buy the right stuff, but I didn't look closely at the package. Anyways, this will do the trick. That's how I'm gonna put it on and just make sure everything's clean. On. So now I've just got it all like put in by hand, each one. So now with my hand, with one socket, if you want, you can use an extension. Just tighten them by hand until it starts to ooze out of the sides. As you see, I didn't use a gasket. All I used was RTV. So it's starting to spit out. Now I'm gonna go to the other side, do the same thing until it oozes out. And then once every part of the oil pan is oozing out just like that, I leave it for like 20 minutes. And the reason being is because it starts to dry. And then when it's drying, it's already mated to the oil pan and it's already mated to the engine. So once it starts hardening in the center, then it acts as a gasket since it's already drying for a little bit. Because if I just tighten this right down, all the sealant will push out. So this is what I do. This is the way I've been doing it forever. And then after 20 minutes, do a couple turns, basically like anywhere between like 8 and 9 foot-pounds of torque, and then it's good to go. All right, I've got all of them snug by hand. I did use a ratchet, but that is just quicker for me. But if you are learning how to do it, just do it by hand, so then you can't over torque them at the beginning. So as you can see, it's got a nice, fat, small ooze. And as that starts to dry, that's gonna become a gasket for me. So and then once it's starting to get tacky, so once I can basically touch my finger on it and I don't bring back goop, then it's time to start tightening it up a bit. In the meantime, I'm gonna throw my clutch and flywheel on. So this is a Fidenza flywheel bolted onto a master's clutch, or ACT actually. And I wanted the light flywheel to go into the front of the car for the front engine, because when I'm launching the car at the line, here's the front and then here's the back. When I launch it, I've got the light flywheel in the front. So when I drop the clutch, it's more likely to bog the engine because there isn't the centrifugal force and all that mass behind it. Because when you're sitting there, your clutch is in, and this flywheel is just spinning like crazy at like 4 grand. So when you drop the hammer, it's more likely to bog the engine with a lighter flywheel than a heavy one, because the heavier one, the more inertia you have. And when you drop the hammer with a heavy flywheel, it's gonna just spin the tires 100%. So I put a light one on, so it's a little bit safer too, because when I'm banging first to second gear, if I banged it really quick and smoothly and all that, I could potentially squeak the tires loose from first to second gear, because I have all that inertia and I don't want to spin the tires after I'm off the line, because that can get pretty dangerous, because that's what I steer with. Okay, now it's time for me to just snug up these oil pan bolts. So I'm just gonna get my 10 and go around, tighten them all up a bit. See, it's dried up pretty good. Now all it needs is an intake and a couple plugs in here for temp sensors, and that's it. Then she's ready to go into the front. That's what she looks like, and she's done. The only thing that needs to be done is the intake that I need to put sensors in for temp. But other than that, she's good to go. That's how you get a junkyard engine looking awesome.